1G. Mobile networks didn't start with apps, data, or notifications blowing up your phone. They started with voice only and a lot of static. Think less smartphone and more walkie-talkie with dreams. The world's first commercial 1G network launched in 1979 in Japan. Rolled out by Nippon Telegraph and Telephone and limited to Tokyo. For the first time ever, people could make phone calls without being tied to a wall. That alone felt like science fiction, even if the call sounded like it was happening inside a microwave. The US joined the party in 1983 with AMPS, which stands for Advanced Mobile Phone System, launched by Ameritech. This is where the iconic Motorola Dynatac shows up, the original brick phone. If you've ever seen a photo of 1980s mobile technology, this is the image burned into your brain. A beige rectangle with an antenna longer than your forearm. It weighed around 2 pounds, cost nearly $4,000 at launch, about $12,000 today, and delivered a glorious 30 minutes of talk time. After that, your call was over and your arm probably needed a rest. Portable? Yes. Pocket friendly? Only if your pocket was a backpack. Technically, 1G used analog frequency modulation, meaning voice signals were sent as raw radio waves. There was no data at all. No texting, no internet, no emojis. The speed is often estimated around 2.4 kilobits per second, but that number is mostly academic. This network existed to do exactly one thing: let you talk, badly. One huge innovation was the cellular system itself. Cities were divided into smaller cells, allowing frequencies to be reused so more people could make calls at once. That idea is still the backbone of modern mobile networks. So yes, your iPhone owes something to this chunky dinosaur. But the downsides were brutal. No encryption, meaning anyone with a radio scanner could casually eavesdrop on your call. The sound quality was full of hiss and crackle. No roaming, so once you left your coverage area, your phone became a very expensive paperweight. And battery life? Let's just say power banks weren't a thing yet. Still, for its time, 1G was revolutionary. Your phone weighed as much as a small dog, cost as much as a used car, but you could make a call from your car. And in the early 80s, that was enough to blow minds. 2G. This is the moment mobile phones stopped being glorified walkie-talkies and started becoming personal. 2G was the glow-up. The first commercial 2G GSM network went live on July 1, 1991. Launched by Radio Linja in Finland. A few months earlier, on April 25, 1991, Finnish Prime Minister Harri Holker made the world's first official GSM call using a Nokia handset. It wasn't flashy, but it quietly changed everything. The biggest shift? Analog to digital. This single change flipped the entire mobile industry on its head. First, digital encryption meant your calls were finally private. No more random people with radio scanners listening to your conversations like it was live podcast content. Second, spectrum efficiency improved massively. Digital signals let networks support way more users at once, which meant fewer dropped calls and less network busy trauma. But the real cultural nuke was SMS text messaging. The first SMS was sent on December 3, 1992, and the message was beautifully boring. Merry Christmas. It was sent from a computer to a phone, and almost nobody cared. Texting was seen as a side feature. Even carriers didn't think it would matter. Then, the late 90s happened. Suddenly, teenagers were firing off texts like machine guns. Entire conversations moved to tiny monochrome screens. A new language was born. LOL, BRB, TTYL. Because every character cost money and thumbs were slow. If you could text under the desk without looking, you were elite. Speed-wise, early 2G ran at 9.6 to 14.4 kilobits per second, which sounds painful today. But later upgrades like GPRS and Edge pushed things into the 40 to 100 kilobits per second range. That was enough for basic email, painfully slow web pages, and WAP sites that looked like the internet after leg day was skipped. This era also gave us legendary hardware. The Nokia 3310 turned phones into indestructible lifestyle accessories. You had Snake, the game that turned boring classes and waiting rooms into personal high-score competitions. That tiny pixelated snake eating dots became a universal experience. Add polyphonic ringtones and custom faceplates, and suddenly your phone was a personality statement. Phones shrank from bricks into candy bar designs, and suddenly everyone had one. 3G. This is the era where phones tried to become smart, and kind of succeeded. 3G was the awkward teenage phase of mobile internet, full of potential, a little unreliable but absolutely necessary for what came next. The first commercial 3G network launched in October 2001 in Japan, rolled out by NTT Docomo. The main standard was UMTS, also known as WCDMA, and the promise was huge. Real mobile internet, video calling, multimedia messaging, and a future where your phone could do more than call and text. At launch, basic 3G speeds topped out around 384 kilobits per second in real-world use. That doesn't sound impressive now, but back then it was life-changing. For the first time, phones could load actual websites, not those stripped-down WAP pages that looked like the internet had been faxed to you. Then came the upgrades. HSPA, often called 3.5G, pushed speeds up to 7.2 megabits per second, and later HSPA Plus, or 3.75G, stretched that to 21 megabits per second, even 42 megabits with dual carrier support, at least on paper. In reality, your phone usually delivered fast enough eventually. What did 3G enable? A lot. You could browse the web properly, check an email with attachments, and yes, watch YouTube on your phone. It buffered a lot, but it worked. Video calling also debuted here, though early attempts were grainy, lagging, and painfully awkward. People avoided eye contact with their own screens like it was a social experiment gone wrong. Most importantly, 3G made smartphones possible. The iPhone launched in 2007, Android followed in 2008, and suddenly phones weren't just phones anymore. The iPhone especially became the face of the 3G era. That sleek touchscreen rectangle with app icons in a grid. It was the device that made everyone realize their old phone looked ancient overnight. App stores actually made sense. The Apple App Store in 2008 would have been useless on 2G speeds. Without 3G, smartphones would have just been fancy PDAs with commitment issues. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Coverage was spotty outside major cities. Battery life took a serious hit. Switching from 2G often meant getting a new SIM card, which confused everyone. And streaming video felt like watching 3 pixels argue with a loading bar. Still, 3G changed everything. This was the moment mobile internet stopped being a novelty and became a habit. Quick question. Which generation was your first smartphone? Drop it in the comments. And if you're finally understanding what all these G's actually mean, hit the like button. 4G LTE. This is when the mobile internet finally stopped being shy and grew up. 4G LTE turned our phones from emergency internet devices into full-on lifelines. Suddenly, people were canceling home internet because why pay for Wi-Fi when your phone could stream everything on the go? The first commercial 4G LTE networks launched in December 2009 in Stockholm and Oslo by Telia Sonera. Stockholm used Ericsson equipment and Oslo used Huawei. The first devices were Samsung USB modems because phones weren't ready for this speed yet. Technically, 4G was a revolution. It was fully packet-based, which basically means everything became data. Web browsing, streaming, texting, and eventually voice calls all ran on the same system. The old-school circuit-switched voice was gone. 4G was the all-you-can-eat buffet of mobile internet. Speeds reached up to 100 megabits per second theoretically, with real-world speeds between 20 and 50 megabits per second. That's roughly 10 times faster than 3G, which meant HD video finally worked. No more staring at 3 pixels trying to figure out what the actor was doing. 4G also turned your phone into a mini office, entertainment center, and game console all at once. Video calls actually functioned, mobile gaming went real-time, and apps like Uber or Instagram suddenly made sense. Social media exploded, and so did our collective screen time. This was the Samsung Galaxy era. While Apple refined its formula, Samsung's Galaxy S series became synonymous with 4G. Big screens, expandable storage, and enough horsepower to finally make Android feel premium. The Galaxy S4 alone sold over 80 million units. If 3G belonged to the iPhone's debut, 4G was the battleground where Android flagships proved they could compete blow for blow. Latency dropped to around 30 to 50 milliseconds, making real-time apps smooth enough to forget you were once buffering endlessly on 3G. 5G. 5G arrived in April 2019, first hitting South Korea courtesy of SK Telecom, KT, and LG U+. US carriers weren't far behind, with Verizon lighting up Chicago and Minneapolis just days later. This was supposed to be the network that turned our phones into lightsabers of connectivity. There are 2 flavors of 5G. First, sub-6 GHz. the everyday 5G that most of us actually use. It runs under 6 GHz, penetrates buildings, and offers speeds from 100 to 400 megabits per second. Perfect for browsing, streaming, and pretending your life is futuristic. Then there's millimeter wave, the ultra-wideband, a real thrill ride. It can hit speeds of 1 to 2 gigabits per second. Theoretically, even 20 gigabits. Sounds insane, right? But it's extremely fragile. Walls, trees, even a sneeze from a stranger can block it. It only really works in dense cities, stadiums, and airports. In the real world, South Korea averages 360 megabits per second, making them the speed kings. The US varies wildly, anywhere from 50 to 800 plus megabits depending on where you stand. Millimeter wave tests have even reached 2.3 gigabits per second. Latency drops to 1 to 10 milliseconds compared to 30 to 50 on 4G. That's the real magic. Instant response for cloud gaming, AR, VR, even remote surgery. 5G enables cloud gaming, 8K streaming, smart cities, IoT at massive scale, self-driving vehicles, and industrial automation. It's a tech marvel. But for most people, it doesn't yet feel revolutionary. Your average scroll on Instagram might not seem faster than 4G. But behind the scenes, 5G is quietly building the future. It's like having a rocket engine in your pocket that you can't fully use until roads catch up. And those pockets hold increasingly impressive hardware, edge-to-edge displays, 120 Hz refresh rates, and cameras that would have been professional equipment a decade ago. The phones got faster, thinner, and smarter, even if the network's full potential is still waiting to be unlocked. 6G. 6G hasn't arrived yet, but researchers and companies like Nokia, Ericsson, Samsung, Qualcomm, and Huawei are racing toward it. Expected commercial deployment is likely in the early 2030s, with some predictions putting South Korea at the forefront around 2028 to 2030. The numbers being thrown around are absolutely wild. Theoretical speeds could hit 1 terabit per second. That's 1,000 gigabits, easily 50 to 100 times faster than 5G. Realistic speeds might still exceed 100 gigabits on ideal conditions. Latency might drop below 1 millisecond, potentially reaching 0.1 milliseconds. Connection density might support 100 million devices per square kilometer, 10 times what 5G can handle. Mobility at speeds up to 1,000 kilometers per hour would make high-speed trains and aircraft fully connected. Location accuracy could reach a mind-boggling 1 centimeter. 6G is expected to bring AI-native networks, integrated sensing, non-terrestrial satellites, and high-altitude platforms, holographic 3D video calls, digital twins, massive antenna arrays, and terahertz frequencies. Imagine holographic telepresence where you feel like your coworker is literally in the room. 16K streaming that surpasses human vision, brain-computer interfaces, fully autonomous everything, and real-time virtual twins of entire cities. And the devices themselves? Expect phones to look nothing like today's glass rectangles. Foldables, rollables, and flexible displays are already here. By 6G, your phone might wrap around your wrist, unfold into a tablet, or project interfaces directly onto surfaces. The form factor that's dominated since the iPhone could finally give way to something we haven't imagined yet. Of course, there's a reality check. We said similar things about 5G, and most consumers didn't notice daily improvements right away. Infrastructure will be astronomically expensive, and most people don't need speeds beyond 5G for current apps. Still, 6G promises a mind-blowing glimpse into the future of connectivity. If 5G taught us anything, it's that the hype often races ahead of what's actually useful. Expect the marketing to scream now while the real benefits arrive slowly. And that's mobile networks, from 1G bricks to future 6G speeds. Each generation fixes the last one's problems, roughly every 10 years. Which generation did you grow up with? Sending texts on 2G, buffering on 3G, or streaming on 4G? Let me know in the comments. Now here's the thing, you just learned how mobile networks evolved outside your home. But the moment you walk through your front door, there's a completely different set of confusing numbers waiting for you. Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, Wi-Fi 7. What do any of those actually mean? Why does your router have a different number than your phone's connection? And is upgrading your Wi-Fi router even worth it if your internet plan stays the same? That's exactly what we're covering next. Every Wi-Fi generation explained simply. from the ancient 802.11b days to the blazing fast Wi-Fi 7. What each one does, which one you actually need, and why the naming used to be even more confusing than mobile networks. Click the video on screen right now, and I'll see you there.